Don't let the size of these homes fool you. Today we're taking you inside 4 small spaces packed with personality. First, we visit Imani Keal's vibrant Washington, D.C. home, where DIY projects and thrifty finds transform a blank canvas. Then we're off to New York City, where Carly Hill brings bold color and travel mementos into her 350 square foot apartment. Next, in London, Domenica Marland shows us a chic flat layered with contemporary art and personal style. And finally, back in New York, designer Windsor Dalton proves that 550 square feet can still feel like a true sanctuary.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
And be sure to check out our new show with interior designer Martin Lawrence Bullard, streaming exclusively on Homeworthy Plus.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Imani. This is my 850 square foot DC apartment. Come on in.
Today we're in the nation's capital touring the vibrant 850 square foot apartment of content creator Imani Keal. What started as a blank canvas rental is now a bold, character-rich home, thanks to Ammani's eye for design, love of DIY, and passion for a great thrifted find.
This right here is one of my favorite projects that I've ever done. I bought this chair at an estate sale for like $50. It looked like trash. It was ugly. And then I found this fabric and I was like, I found this fabric. I took the workshop and I was like, I can reupholster a chair. For some reason, I believe that it was successful. The chair looks incredible. I love the pattern. I love the pink piping.
From pieces collected on her travels to clever hands-on transformations, every corner of this Washington, D.C. apartment feels intentional and distinctly her own.
I always think that you should have art on the walls that reflects who you are and the things that you care about. And the things that I care about are my friends because they are my family. And all of these photos are pictures that we took during a trip to Paris for Christmas. And I got them like printed out in black and white and I framed them up. These frames are from IKEA. Very inexpensive DIY, and you can make something beautiful without spending a ton of money.
To watch Ammani's full episode ad-free, scan the QR code on screen or visit homeworthyplus.com. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Imani Keal. I'm a content creator and interior decorator. This is my 850 square foot apartment in Washington, D.C. When I moved into this apartment, it was very bland. All of the walls were like a grayish white. The hardwood floors were here, but it really just wasn't anything. I think the biggest change you'll see is in the kitchen. They had these very cheap cabinets. They didn't go all the way to the ceiling. They just kind of didn't make use of the space. It had a white refrigerator. I didn't like any of it, but I love that it had hardwood floors. I love that it had south-facing light, and it had 2 bedrooms, and the bedrooms were big, and I don't know. It was the apartment where I felt like it had good bones and things that I could use my talents to make it look the way I wanted it to look. I don't necessarily need an apartment to be beautiful on its own because I can give it that. I can make anything look good. And this apartment just had really good bones. It was a great place. Okay, so this is my living room. It's fabulous. But the first thing I noticed when I moved in was that there was no hallway or entryway closet. So I had to figure out immediately, where am I going to put my coat, my shoes, all that kind of stuff. So I had this IKEA stall cabinet in my old apartment. It was also in the entryway, and I moved it over to this apartment and put it in this entryway, and it works great. It can hold a ton of shoes, but I did a little DIY of it, adding door fronts and some new knobs because I thought it would look cute, and it does. I also painted it. This is Fervent Brass by Sherwin-Williams, and then I mixed in another paint color that I can't remember the name of, but I just wanted to have a little extra pop. I also decided to install $3,000 worth of wallpaper in my rental apartment because look how pretty it is. The pattern's called Fulawa by Uzo Art in collaboration with Auto Studio out of Canada. It's perfect. It's beautiful. Installing this much wallpaper was not easy, but it looks amazing and I absolutely love it. So I had to finish out this whole area with another IKEA lamp. I love this donut lamp. Some people keep it flat on the table, but I put it on the wall because it was cute. And then I have an umbrella stand. I only have one umbrella because I lose them. But I think this umbrella stand is so cute. This was actually like my grandma's or my grandpa's or something. And I took it from the house that I grew up in, and it's been with me for years, and I absolutely love it. I wanted to make sure that I had some sort of hallway situation here and block off the living room from the hallway space. I think that's really important, especially if you're, you know, like me and you have a lot of stuff. So I put these two chairs here to sort of give like a back to the room. At first I was going to put two sofas in here, but then I realized I didn't have that much space. So I found these two chairs. It's actually a part of a set of 6. The other 4 are in the kitchen. And I love these chairs, these heavy brutalist dining chairs. I love them. They're very comfortable and they give such a strong like anchor to the space over here. And I really enjoy that. And I think they look good in connection with everything. So coming around this way, we have my entertainment unit system large DIY that I did. It's fab. This is all like red oak plywood that I made, and I made it myself. I used a stain. Cannot remember the name of the Minwax stain that I used, but it was great and it looks really pretty. I of course have to put these aren't even all of my books. These are like half of the books that I have. Some of the books are just in the cabinets down there. But I studied ceramics at Howard University, and my professor Reginald Porter made this, and I bought this from him when I graduated. I love that. I like plants. I like books. I like games. I like having something for people to do when they come over. So I keep a little like cute backgammon here. I keep a puzzle on my coffee table because I'm always about ready to bring out a puzzle. My puzzle board is underneath the sofa because that's how you have to do it when you're in a small space. I'm really big on like styling up here. Some people say I needed bigger TV, but I'm not doing that. So I keep all of my books out. Some of these are like my friend Paula Bodega Bakes. She wrote this book, so I have her cookbook, even though I don't cook and I can't bake, but I support the girls. So I have that. I have Michelle Obama's new book called The Look, and she do be serving looks. Shout out to Michelle Obama. And then I just put this lamp on top. This is my grandma's lamp. I have another one of them. It's just in my office, and these were in her bedroom the entirety of my childhood. And when I moved into this apartment, I was like, oh, no one's using these. And they don't fit anyone else's style but mine. So you're coming with me, girl. Coming over here, I feel like, again, more books, tons of books. I love books. Some of these are books that I buy brand new, and some of these are books that I pick up at the thrift store. Like, I think sometimes you go to the thrift store and you can find books of like old historic homes, and I love that kind of stuff. So I buy those. I'm also really big into like design books. I have like a ridiculous amount of them, but I think they're good for like styling. But then also if I need inspiration for something, or I want to see what homes look like across the world, books are some of the best ways to do it. You know, even though I do create content online, I still like photography. I still like photography books, so I buy the books. I'm a big theater person. Love a playbill. Last year I saw Othello. That Denzel. You knew what he's talking about. Jake Gyllenhaal's cute too, but he ain't no Denzel. That's all I gotta say. And I think the greatest thing I saw was I got to see Leslie Odom Jr. reprise his role as Aaron Burr in Hamilton, and it was like best almost $600 I've ever spent. Like, oh god, it was amazing. Also, Audra McDonald. I feel like last year was 2025 was the year of like me seeing the greats, and I saw them, and I love that because you know live theater is important. We should invest in live theater. We should always be going to see a performance, and that's always what I'm going to do. I say that this art piece here is the best purchase that I made all of 2025, and I'm going to stand by that. This is an oil painting from an unknown artist. I got it from a store called Miss Pixie's, which unfortunately closed down, but she's still selling art on her Instagram. So shout out to Miss Pixie's. And I went in there. I saw it in the store. It was like $600. And I was like, I can't spend $600 on a piece of art. I can't spend $600 on a piece of art. So then I just took a picture of it and I texted it to my loyal group of sycophants. And I was like, guys, should I buy this? And everybody was like, yes, buy it now, buy it now. But I made sure that I sent that text after Miss Pixie's had already closed. So that I wouldn't be like, feeling the hustle and bustle to go buy it again. But then literally the next day, I jumped out of bed in my nightgown and I went to Miss Pixie's as soon as they opened and I bought it. And they literally wrapped it up in a trash bag because it couldn't fit in anything else. I put it in the back of an Uber. I brought it home and I hung it up immediately. It is my favorite thing in the entire world. I love it so much. That's my girl. If a fire breaks out, I'm grabbing the dog, I'm grabbing her, and maybe like my laptop, and we're getting up out of here. This right here is one of my favorite projects that I've ever done. I bought this chair at an estate sale for like $50. It looked like trash. It was ugly. And then I found this fabric and I was like, I can reupholster a chair. For some reason, I believe that it was successful. The chair looks incredible. I love the pattern. I love the pink piping. It's beautiful. And I don't know. I just love making stuff. I love doing stuff. It's why I have a job. I love this coffee table with all my heart. I ended up getting it for free because I tried to pay the woman 3 different times and she kept not accepting the payment. And I was like, okay, well, you don't want my $50? I'll keep my $50. But it's a really, really beautiful, heavy table. I love this table so much. And then I always think that you should have art on the walls that reflects who you are and the things that you care about. And the things that I care about are my friends because they are my family. And all of these photos are pictures that we took during a trip to Paris for Christmas. And I got them like printed out in black and white and I framed them up. These frames are from IKEA. Very inexpensive DIY. And you can like, make something beautiful without spending a ton of money. Like these frames come with mats on the inside and printing out all of the pictures I think cost like $10 at CVS. And it's beautiful. In terms of like lighting, it's a very small room, but I still have a lot of lamps. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lamps in one room. This ceiling light I found while I was in Copenhagen. I met a man at a vintage store and he was like, do you want to come to my warehouse? And I said yes. So I biked to a warehouse and I spent like 4 hours in there. I bought 4 ceiling pendants and a lamp for like $600. And that includes shipping it from Copenhagen. And then I spent another couple $100 having them retrofitted so that they can go into like a US junction box. And best money I ever spent because $600 for 5 lights is a damn good deal if you ask me. Yeah, I love how this living room came together. I feel like everything in here is like kind of a different style, and they all really don't work together if you look at them too hard. Some things are more traditional, some things are more contemporary and like new, but I love how this all came together. And I feel really excited that so much of what's here is things that I made and DIY'd and created. And also, I've managed to keep most of these plants alive. So that's a win for me, actually. I killed a snake plant once. So keeping a rubber tree alive is a success. Yeah. What is my sense of style? I have no idea. I say that it's like neutral maximalism with a little bit of vintage and eclectic flair. I am a person who loves wallpaper, obviously. I like to DIY, I like to make things. So if there's something that I want and I feel like I can't afford it or I can't find it, I have no problem just making it. That does sometimes mean that the things that I make aren't always like perfect, or like they're not like, they may not be like look like the $7,000 piece that you would get from like a furniture maker, but they're made by me and they're mine. I like my house to feel like me. Biggest compliment anyone can give me is just to say, oh, this feels exactly like how I thought your house would feel. And I'm like, perfect. That's what it is. That was the goal. So this house is like 100% Imani all the time. So this is my kitchen. It's fantastic. I feel like I say that about every room in the house, but it's true. The kitchen was the one room in this apartment that was like the reason I didn't want it. It had a dishwasher, which was great, but I always felt like the shape of it was very weird because based off of what I've seen about other units in this building, this used to be 2 rooms. And this was like there was a wall right here. So this kitchen was a lot more closed off. And so at some point they took the wall down, which I do kind of like because it's more open, but at the same time, this part of the room is super narrow and that part of the kitchen is super narrow. So I tried to figure out what I could do to make the most of it. The kitchen obviously did not look like this when I moved in. It was hideous. But a couple months after I moved in, I found a mouse, which turned into mice. And they were playing hopscotch in the middle of the kitchen. And it was like disgusting. And my friend had a panic attack so bad about it that he ended up ripping out the bottom cabinets as well as the stove that used to be in here. Which started us on the path of renovating in this rental. This is probably the most extreme project that I've ever done in a rental, and I stand by it 100%. So the cabinets are from IKEA. The color is Royal Garnet by Valspar. Countertops, IKEA. They're super fab. And what I love is that I made a lot of decisions for the kitchen. Like, instead of doing cabinet doors, I did drawers, so everything pulls out, and I really enjoy that. I ended up picking a smaller stove so that I could have additional countertop space here. But I love these cabinets. They're so fun, and I think it's really cool how instead of letting it be that like boring white IKEA look on the inside, I actually used another wallpaper from my collection with Auto Studio. This one's called India's Knit in the color green, and I put that on the inside of the cabinets as well as on all of the shelves in there, and I really like how that looks. Hardware from Etsy. The flooring is the collaboration between Chris Loves Julia and Wall Pops, and I really like it. I love a checkerboard tile. I think it really like adds to the space. It's very interesting. It's very fun. It's very cool. And then this might be my favorite part of the kitchen. This is a jade lamp that I found at the Georgetown flea market. I don't even remember how much the guy charged me for this, but it's so beautiful. And then also in the kitchen, the other big thing that I did is I installed a $6,000 faucet. This is a beautiful Waterworks faucet. It is the Easton Classic 2-hole bridge faucet with the oak lever handles. It's gorgeous. Look at her. She's so pretty. People all the time, they're like, why would you do that? Are you going to leave that in your apartment? Why would I leave a $6,000 faucet in a rental? That's stupid. Obviously, I'm going to take it out and replace it with something that I buy for like $100 on Facebook Marketplace. Calm down. I think second favorite thing that I ever did in this kitchen was this little situation over here. This was actually a dumbwaiter at some point. By the time I moved in here, it didn't work anymore. There was a door here. There was nothing you could do. And so I decided to build a box and I put it on the inside and I secured it. And I just use it as like storage for my plates and like my everyday plates and stuff. So, you know, these are what I use. I'm very big into like ceramics. I studied ceramics in college. And so I go to a studio here called Material Things. And so sometimes after class, I'll buy plates. And I wanted a place to put all of my things on display. And this is where it is. I keep like this bowl that I got from my grandma that I put fruit in. And it's just another way that I add extra storage to my apartment for one, not a lot of money. And two, a whole lot of DIY fun. Over here, I put these two prints that I have. These were from a girl, I think her studio was called Gently Made Studios. And I love these prints. I thought they were so cute. And I like to have art on the wall. Over here, I'm a double china cabinet type of gal. This one was my grandma's. I inherited it from her. And I absolutely love it. At the bottom, I keep a lot of my stuff for the dog, like his blow dryer, soon to be my blow dryer because now that I have hair, and all of my like laundry supplies. And then up here, I keep part of my glassware collection. I went to Japan recently and it was a really stressful trip, so I drank a lot. And I found this gin there that I really like, so I bought that. And then I recently started doing DIY projects for my client, and as a thank you, she gave me a bottle of hooch, and it's like really good. So I have that all in there. And then, you know, you got to keep the Monkey 47 always because it's really good gin, and you can make a damn good martini all the time. I love this table. Again, the chairs that were in my living room, I bought a set of 6 because I figured I would never find 6 such great chairs for such a good price. So I use 4 of them in the kitchen. I'll bring in more chairs more chairs into the kitchen if I'm having like more people. But then I found this little table, like aluminum table on Facebook Marketplace for like $75, but the table was really too small, but I really liked how it looked. So I bought this glass that was a bit bigger than the table to extend it out and make it a larger table for me to have people over. And this is my basket. I keep my basket full of fruit. That is definitely what I always have here, and it's not styled to perfection. This basket is from a girl called Elephant Grass on Instagram. She weaves these baskets. I think they're beautiful, and I like to keep all my like fruits and veggies and sometimes my onions and garlic in there. My little mid-century modern brass chandelier. This was another one of my Copenhagen finds. I mean, look at it, you know? Like, if I would have bought this in the States, I probably could pay like $300, $400, $500 for this piece alone. And I got 5 light fixtures for $600. It is my greatest claim to fame, and I will never stop talking about it. Then we have to move on over to my other china cabinet that I bought from a very nice guy named Bob. It belonged to his wife. She unfortunately passed away. And I hired a company to go to Baltimore to go pick it up. And then they carried it up the stairs. It was precarious, to say the least. Every minute I thought that they were going to drop it and it was going to fall. But they didn't. Shout out to them. But I usually keep a lot of my other additional glassware in here. These right now are my favorite glasses. They're kind of like tubular. I think these are so cute. I found these also in Copenhagen, and I brought these back in my suitcase because I didn't like want to risk shipping them. But I shopped so much in Copenhagen, I literally had to buy another suitcase to just bring all my stuff back. But I feel like the china cabinets, in addition to just being beautiful and being pretty and being something, they also have to serve a purpose. They need to be storage as well. So on the bottom is where I keep things more like densely packed. So down here I have all of these baskets. This one has like cling wrap and aprons from restaurants that I worked at. But then I keep all of my like towels and like grocery bags over there. And it's really cute to just like have everything closed away, tucked away, and then I can use the basket as a sort of like hidden storage kind of vibe. Another early DIY that I did was this bad boy over here. These shelves weren't here, but I felt like this was usable space and I needed to use it. So I installed these shelves. It holds like, you know, everything that I need, like my toaster, my blender, my tea kettle, all this kind of stuff. My air fryer. Shout out to my air fryer because this is mainly how we eat over here. And then below that is where I keep sort of Sal's things. And I think Sal deserves to have a cute little eating station as well. So his is on a nice bright yellow tray, even though I don't think he can see yellow because he's a dog. But anyway, I wanted him to have a cute little area as well because I get to have a cute little area. And yeah, it's adorable. I love my kitchen. I saw this at the IKEA museum in Sweden, and I was like, I don't really know what it is, but I thought the orange color would look really cute in my kitchen. I remember thinking that, and so I brought it home, and I put it in this frame, also from IKEA, and they are sausages. They are like sealed, cased up sausages. And I always just thought it was cute, you know? I think sometimes like the art on the wall doesn't have to be too crazy. It doesn't have to be too complicated. It can just be a photo that you think is beautiful. And then you put it on the wall. And that's it. That's all it is. The main thing with living in a small space is stop trying to make the small space something that it's not. You know, I always say, there's no amount of white paint that's going to make 450 square feet feel like 900 square feet. If you want to paint your small apartment black, do it. I've done it. It looks great. Just add, you know, 2 additional lamps to make it feel lighter. But I come from a household of, I don't use the big light anyway, so I'm lamp central. You know, I feel like that's a good place to start of like, stop trying to make a small space feel like a big space. It's not. Just use what you have to make something beautiful. Things can be small and be beautiful. That's fine. I think you have to get really creative with storage. I do not believe in just like, I'm not a minimalist. I don't believe in just being like, oh, you have to pare down. You have to have like no knickknacks. No, I'm a trinket girl. I'm a bowl girl, tray girl. I love books. I love plants. I like having stuff in my house. So for me, small space living isn't necessarily about having less. It's about being more creative with what you have. So I still think that you can have big furniture if you live in a small space. Big furniture just holds more stuff, simply put. I always think we are underutilizing the space underneath our beds and underneath our couches, which is why I do not believe in like very low profile beds or sofas or like anything like that. Because I'm like, how do you use the space underneath your sofa if you don't have it up on legs? Like underneath my sofa, I keep a puzzle board, a 6-foot table. There's some shoes under there. There's a couple of like old Rent the Runway bags under there if I need them. But no, I use every inch of space. And, you know, I'm always good for taking things to the ceiling or using the back of the doors. I really love those Alpha over the door racks For small space living, they are absolutely perfect. But yeah, I feel like, I think the biggest thing with small space living is that people want it to be something that it's not. You can have friends over, you can do all the things that you would do in a huge house, you can do in a small apartment. Like, I've had a party for like 15 people in here. It's fine. Just open the windows and get a couple fans to circulate the air. Okay, so this is my bedroom. It's fabulous. Let's start with the paint color, because I think that's the thing that gets the most people talking. This color is called Coconut Husk by Valspar. When I painted this, I swear to God, I saw the side of the internet that I did not know existed. Everyone was like, it looks like baby poo. It's IBS brown. It's what happens to me after I eat Mexican food. And I'm like, hilarious. But I think it's beautiful. I adore this color. I decided to color drench the entire room because, to me, I wanted my bedroom to feel like a little cocoon. I am actually afraid of the dark, but I like feeling fully encased a little bit when I'm in the bed. So I painted the room really dark, and then I did a lot of darker accents, like this beaded chandelier that I got for $450. Also put it in an Uber, and like having like a little bit of velvet on the lampshade and having a black mirror and all that. I wanted the space to feel very cool and fun and dark and cozy, and then let me light it up with things like a white bedspread. So yeah, that's kind of like where I got started with the room. The big problem with this room that I had when I moved in is that there was no closet space. There's like one tiny little closet. I'm not going to open it because stuff will fall out. There's like one tiny little closet in there, and I was like, that's not going to work for Imani. So I ended up building this PAX wardrobe here so that I could have some additional closet space. And then over here, I found, actually all of this is thrifted. I found this at some girl's house on Facebook Marketplace. It was like these two girls who lived above a dentist office or something. And I found this and I painted it in this color. This is called Renew Blue, also by Valspar. I think it was their 2023 color of the year. It's a good color. So I did that. I loved what it looked like next to the brown on the walls. And I like how it looks with like the purple or maroon of this lamp. This table, when I went to go drop the lights off that I found in Copenhagen, it was like the electrician guy was next to this vintage store. And I went in there. I was really just trying to kill time. I swear, I didn't go in there to shop. I was just killing time. And then I found this console table because I always felt like this part was too open. There was just nothing happening here. And I wanted a place to put all of my like lotions and skincares and all of that good stuff. So I bought it. I put it in an Uber. My first Uber canceled on me, but then my second Uber showed up and it could fit in his truck. And so I put it in there and I popped it here. I think it looks beautiful and gorgeous and wonderful and fun, and I absolutely love it. This mirror is a real showstopper. I had this in my old apartment. I got it from that website Kayo. Does anybody remember Kayo? They like went bankrupt or something. But prior to going bankrupt, this mirror off of there, and it was great. I love it. It's beautiful. It's super heavy, but it looks great, and I can see myself over here and over there. And I like that. I like that a lot. This rug was a real labor of love. This is the kind of thing where like my biggest tip for people, if you're trying to find good stuff, is to shop on Facebook Marketplace. But when I went on Marketplace, I found this rug and I was talking to the seller, and the seller was in Philly. And I was like, hey, I'm in Delaware. I'm in DC, but I can come to Philly to come pick up the rug. And he was like, how are you going to get the rug back to Delaware or to DC? And I said, oh, I'll just put it in a suitcase because I don't care. And he felt that that would be too complicated, and so he refused to sell it to me. And then I ended up waiting like a week. I was so disappointed. I was so mad that he sold it to somebody else because the listing went away. And then a week later, I saw it on Facebook Marketplace again, and it was a different person posting it. And I was convinced that it was a scam, but I decided to like message them anyway because I was like, what if I was God's favorite? And it turns out that the girl who bought it, the rug was too big for her space. So we ended up like deciding on a price. She said she would sell it to me. I went up to Philly with a wagon on the bus, and I bought it and I put it in a wagon and I carted it around Philly to get on the bus and take it to 30th Street and take the train back to DC with my rug. It was $165-ish for a wool 8x10 rug. I do think I'm better than other people because I found this rug and I got it for really cheap. And there's nowhere I won't go to find a good piece of furniture or a good rug or anything. Philly, Tennessee, New York, I don't care. If there's good stuff out there, I'm going to find it. And yeah, I love this rug. I also love this bed, which it's funny because this isn't even the whole bed. This is just a headboard, and this headboard is not attached to anything. It could fall at almost any moment. But I feel like it really brings some interest to this part of the apartment, and obviously the dog loves it as well. I started Imani at Home in June of 2020, and I feel like that was a time where it was COVID. Nobody really knew what was going on. We were all still kind of going crazy and staying in the house. And I had a studio apartment also in DC, and I had like lost my job. I was kind of just unsure about what I wanted to do. And I started DIYing my studio apartment because truly I just didn't have anything else to do. So I would be at Ace Hardware every other day because that was the only place you could walk to for real. So I started doing things like I would stain my bed frame. I would paint my entire apartment black. I installed shelves in my kitchen. I was just doing stuff. And one of my friends from college was like, oh, you should start an Instagram account. You should do this. And I was like, what would I call an Instagram? And she was like, you should call it Imani at Home. And so I did. And then this sort of account, this thing, this job, this career I now have sort of grew from not really being comfortable in my house, because I went from being a person who had like 3 jobs, I was always out, I was never home, to being a person who was always at home. And I wanted my space to feel better. I wanted my space to feel good for me, especially because I was spending so much more time in the apartment. And I always say like making that Instagram account that changed my life. It changed my life for the better, because I was always the kind of person who would paint their bedroom or like get furniture and go to the thrift store. I was always doing that. Even since I was a kid, there was a Goodwill around the corner from my house growing up, and I would just always be in the Goodwill. And now I do that, but I do it for work and I get paid to do it, and life is even better. This is my bathroom. I feel like I keep saying it's fabulous, but it really is. The biggest thing in here is the wallpaper. Obviously, this pattern is called Drunken Chevron in Rose. It's from my wallpaper collection with Auto Studio. Love her. I designed this wallpaper drinking a very delicious martini in a bar. I was getting absolutely hammered, and I was like scribbling on a piece of paper, and I was like, this would be a cute wallpaper. And then I worked with the Auto Studio team to bring it together. I loved this little blue dot in here, and so I felt like it would look really cute with the blue tile that was in the bathroom. I did at one point want to remove this blue tile, not because I don't think it's cute, and I do believe in preserving like old tiled bathrooms. I'm not a person who's gonna like rip out things for no reason. I wanted to rip it out because the tile does not look very good, and at some point the tiles were replaced, and so the blue tiles over here don't match the blue tiles over there. It kind of looks a hot mess. So I wanted to replace them with like a similar blue tile, but the internet absolutely flamed me and my landlord said no. So I didn't do that. But I did feel like this wallpaper really looked good with the tile. I know some people disagree, but they're wrong. And I really wanted this bathroom to be super pink and super pretty. I ended up painting the cabinet that was already here. This is Borscht by Sherwin-Williams. And I love it. I think it's cute. This little knob, little starburst knob, is from Waterworks. I used to work there. I also am like big into like apothecary type shelves. I found this at a Goodwill for $3. And I like to keep all of my like skincare and toothpaste and Claritin because I live in DC and there's a really big pollen problem over here. So I keep all of my little hair goodies and skincare goodies. I'm a recent convert to the sacred Beyonce hair situation, and that's mostly because for 10 years I didn't have any hair and now I do, and I have to like have hair products and stuff, which I never had to do. So I'm making space for that in a small bathroom. I'm also a big fan of like doing like little fun cute things for absolutely no reason. I found these like bathroom signs on like a targeted ad on Instagram or something, and I found these on Etsy. They're really cute and I like them. I don't know. I feel like sometimes you go to people's houses and they have like all their doors closed because people respect privacy. They don't know how to find the bathroom. And I hate when people are like, where's your bathroom? Where's your bathroom? Look at the signs. Okay? Look at the signs. Figure it out. Go pee. Have fun. But yeah, I love my house. I love this bathroom. I put these curtains all the way up into the ceiling because, you know, I hide things in my bathroom when I shoot home tours like this. And so it gives me an opportunity to hide what's in there. But also when you install curtains super high, it really draws your eye up and it can make your bathroom feel more luxurious and taller and beautiful. And I like that. These curtains are from IKEA and I think they've discontinued them as well. And I have a problem with that. So IKEA, let's talk. I'm a big fan of, again, putting things on the wall that actually mean something to you. So this is my grandfather's cane. I had it framed at Michael's, and like you can pick everything and you can choose I think it's called the fillet and the mat board and everything. And I had them mount the cane and frame it. And I absolutely love it. This cane has always kind of, you know what? Fun fact, this cane used to sit in the umbrella stand in my house growing up. And one day, I think when I was like leaving my mom's house, I picked them both up and I was like, these are mine. They're coming down to my house. And for a while, I didn't know what to do with the cane. I had it sort of like hanging off the side of my bed or just like sitting on top of a mantle. And eventually I was like, oh, I can just put it in a frame, put it in a box, put it on the wall and make it look good. And it does. I think it really complements this end of the hallway and I really love it. I think, you know, when you catch Michael's usually has this like 70% off custom framing sale like once or twice a year. And when you catch that, it's a damn good deal. And you can get stuff like this, which would have cost almost $700 for like $300. And I like that because saving money is cool. For me, I don't like houses or apartments or anything that feels too new. I feel like if everything looks like it was just purchased and it all just got delivered, it looks weird. It feels weird because there's no story to tell. If someone's like, oh my God, this is beautiful. Where did you get this? They were like, I bought all of this from the same store and it all got delivered. White glove service. That is weird to me. I like everything to have a story. I want to be like, oh my God, this is the rug that I got off of eBay. It was originally $1,000 and I negotiated it down to like $400. I want to be like, oh my God, these chairs, $600 for 6 of them. I put them in the back of an Uber. The Uber said, it won't fit. And I said, yes, it will. Yes, it will. And they did. I feel like, you can buy new things, but if you don't have anything that was like belonged to your mom or your grandma or your cousin, or it was that weird piece of whatever that was in your college apartment, or you stole this from somebody years ago and they never said that you had to give it back, so now it's here. I just feel like a good home tells a story, and there is no story unless you have like cool stuff in the apartment to tell the story. I come from a family of shoppers. That's how I like to see it. We are big on like, all right, we're leaving the house. We're hitting the tri-state area, Jersey, Philly, Delaware, to go shopping. And we would shop all day. That is just how we roll. That was just how we operate. I feel like that to me is where I get the love of the store, love of like going in and being like, okay, what do they have? How can I use this? Can I bring this in my home? Would this work in here? Plus growing up and then having your own space and not having like, $100,000 to decorate an apartment. I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? So I put together all of the things that I have inherently to create this space that I have. But it's also like, my dad is a plumber. My mom did photography for a while. So growing up, it wasn't unheard of for us to just kind of do things and figure it out. I feel like more than anything, the way I've been able to create this apartment is literally just by being like, what's the worst thing that can happen? If I go to try to build this piece of furniture and it falls apart, okay, what is that? 2 sheets of plywood that I messed up? If I tear something up, then I can just fix it, I did a project a couple years ago, not in my house, but in my mom's house. And I accidentally flooded her laundry room. And it was like, there's water coming down out of the chandelier in the dining room. And it's like all over the dining room table. It really can't get any worse than that. So I might as well just do what I want to do the research to make sure that I'm doing it correctly, and have a little bit of money and some renter's insurance put aside just in case it all, goes to shit. I think home is safety. Home is security. It's like comfortable. It's comforting. I, suffer from claustrophobia. So sometimes when I have to go outside and I have to like exist in the world, there's always something that I'm bumping up against. It's an elevator to get to here. It's a train ride to get to there. It's an airplane to go on the trip that I want to go on to. And so even if I work up the courage and the spirit to go out and do whatever I want to do, I'm usually bumping up against something that brings me stress. And the thing I love about my house and the house that I've created is there's nothing in here that brings me stress. Sometimes I create problems and stress for myself by starting projects that I don't finish, but for the most part, everything in here is exactly how I want it. It is exactly how I like it, and it all just brings me comfort and joy that I get to be here every day. Thanks for coming over, everyone. As you can see, I have 1,000 projects that I need to work on, so I'm kicking y'all out. Bye.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Carly. Welcome to my Williamsburg apartment. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
My name is Carly Hill. I'm the founder of Carly A. Hill Communications, a boutique talent agency here in New York, and then I'm also a content creator on the side. And we are in my East Williamsburg apartment. So I've been in New York almost 11 years. I never thought I'd be a Brooklyn girl. I was very against it. And then when COVID happened, I was living in a very tiny studio apartment that we made into a 3-bedroom in Financial District and said, don't think this is the life we're meant to be living anymore. And 2 of our friends had made the move over to Williamsburg, and slowly my apartment with my 2 roommates made it over as well. And suddenly our entire friend group was here, which has been the biggest blessing. We have a huge group of friends that are all about like a few blocks from each other. So being able to like grab coffee in the morning with them or like get dinners and just always be in our neighborhood has been one of my favorite parts of living over in Williamsburg. But finding this apartment, I had roommates before in our last apartment, and we had been together for about 4 years in that apartment, and then it was time to go out on my own finally, and I knew I wanted to stay in the area. So this is just a few blocks from my last apartment, but I've been very spoiled the last few years of having like a washer and dryer and a dishwasher, and those were really important to me still to have on my own. And also, working in the influencer world, I'm very lucky to have a lot of packages come my way. So having a doorman and safety there of just packages not being stolen, which unfortunately is a very common New York thing. But when I saw this apartment, the best thing I loved about it was the light. Working from home, I need so much good natural sunlight. Makes me feel my best, and the apartment look its best, I think, too. So this was a winner. As you can see, it's super bright. Even on like a cloud gray winter day, it's still super bright and feels good in here. But I found this on Street Easy, and it was one of those classic New York things of just having to go see a million apartments in about a week period, and saw this one and I was like, I think this is it. We got signed now. So I've been here 2 years now and I love it. It's been a really great place to have my first real apartment. So this is Oscar. He is a 3-year-old Siberian cat. I grew up with cats. I've wanted a cat my whole life. And are you gonna jump now? Okay. I knew I wanted a cat for a very long time, and finally during COVID, I asked my roommates if we could get one, and one was against it, one was okay with it. They fell in love with him, of course, the minute I got him, and so it was very fun the first few years of having him. There was 3 of us kind of raising him, which was awesome. But now living here on my own, it's like the best to have a little friend to greet you when you get home. Luckily, also, he is a white cat, so his fur does shed, but having good neutral bases has been a good thing. But I am vacuuming multiple times a day. So this is my bedroom. Definitely the biggest transformation in my apartment was doing the peel and stick wallpaper in here. I was really drawn to the green floral. Green is one of my favorite colors, and I think it's such a great color to decorate with as well. It works with many neutrals and is just a fun pop of color. So yes, it's peel and stick wallpaper. I hired TaskRabbit to put it up because I don't trust myself to do it. And it was so quick. It was literally done in a few hours. You know, it also just makes my apartment, or my room, I should say, feel like a little jewel box. I love going to sleep in here. It gets very dark and cozy, but during the day, it's super bright and colorful. And then displayed here, it's a snug little room, so finding a dresser that fit really well here that I could still walk around was key. So found this, it's 3 parts, so I can easily, in the future split them up, move it around, but filled it with kind of little mementos from different travels and things I just love looking at. So I have this like little tray that I got at the Ritz Paris from Bar Hemingway, one of my favorite cocktail bars, photo of my grandparents. A little lip gloss, monogram lip gloss from Paris as well. Here, this is a Italian pottery tray that I picked up when I was in Sicily. I saw it actually when I was there with my girlfriends and was obsessed with it and didn't get it. And then got the lucky chance to go back on a work trip 1 month later, which was like a dream. And I said, I know exactly where I'm going first when I get to Taormina, and got this. I also have a little ashtray I got from First Dibs from Bemelman's Bar, which is my favorite bar in New York, and just some of my favorite coffee table books as well that I just love having out to display. So I got a canopy bed in my last apartment, and I loved how it kind of filled the space, so I brought it over to this one as well, and I just feel like it kind of transforms a little bit, makes it a little more chicer. It doesn't feel like the classic headboard and feel like the bed's just floating in the middle of the room. It really anchors the room. I kept the bedding really simple. I have fun blue and white striped sheets though, show under here, that I just think is like a fun mix of pop of color and pattern to the room and coordinates really well still. But then kept it really simple with just like white and cream, bordered shams and duvet cover, and then just a fun velvet bolster pillow as well. Over to my bedside, you'll see I have this is a piece of art that I've had for a while that I just love, and it's made it to a few of my apartments now. This is a needlepoint project I did, not today, Satan. You'll see a lot of my needlepoint projects I've framed, made into pillows around my apartment. It's become one of my greatest hobbies during COVID, and it's just a great way to get off my phone at night, which is very hard to do when you work in social media. And then just some other fun little trays, books. My mom gifted me this little crystal seashell that I love and put my jewelry in sometimes. And then over here, you will see my extensive Vogue collection. I've had this since I was 16. So these are all the issues I've had since I was 16, and I'm now 33. So every issue of Vogue is here. And yes, I did ship them all from Michigan to be here, which my parents did not love when I first moved to New York, but they made it. When Sarah Jessica Parker's on the cover, she always has the best spreads. There's one very buried deep in here, but I always remember the one she did for the first Sex and the City movie, and it was like her and Chris Noth like running around New York. That's a definite favorite, but they're always fun to look through and gives me such great inspiration these days. Closet, I have a decent sized closet. Feel very grateful to have this. My last apartment, I had a huge walk-in and I miss it every day, but this has served me well. I also store a lot underneath my bed. I think the best hack, especially in a tiny bedroom, is having a bed that's high enough to put things underneath it in a New York apartment. So these have been with me since 2 apartments ago. I keep like all my, craft supplies and printers and other little beauty toiletries, all the little things that I would never need daily, but are great to kind of store under my bed and can easily pull out. So definitely a great storage hack there. Another great storage hack was getting this armoire. Again, I got very creative and measured to the T in this room and throughout the apartment of things that could fit. So getting this stores, I can store all my sweatshirts and sweaters and things like that in here. And my suitcase is up here as well. And then having this, a very fun vintage suitcase on top, is a great decor hack, but there's a lot more things hiding in there as well. Another needlepoint project of mine. Again, you'll see a lot of those throughout the apartment. And this is Oscar's favorite spot, is his little hanging bed. It's his good way to look out into the city. He definitely loves being outside and does not get that here. So this is my hack for him of being able to see what's going on and get some sunshine. I moved to New York almost 11 years ago and worked in more fashion PR, and then was interning for a blog on the side and started to really love the social media influencer world as it was growing. It just kind of overlapped into my work world as well. And then when COVID hit, fortunately lost my job during that time, but I saw it as the biggest blessing in disguise and started my own company, which is Hill Communications. That is a boutique talent agency, so I manage other influencers and help run all their paid deals, gifting, brand relationships, and affiliate networks. And it's just now grown almost to 6 years of working on my own and with a great group of women. I have 16 women on my roster, and it's just the best. When I was getting ready to design this apartment, I think in the past, I've always been I need to decorate the minute I get in there, especially I think being in New York, you're constantly wanting to fill the space and make it feel like home immediately. For me, I really wanted to have pieces in here that would last me a long time and also were just great staple pieces. So I kind of thought of it as the main pieces being really simple, classic pieces I would have forever. And then everywhere, the decor around and accessories would be those fun pops of colors and things that just made me happy. So truly, I didn't have a palette or anything like that I was working with, or a theme. It really was just I'm gonna buy the things that make me happy and really bring joy when I see them each day. And I think they all work really well together. And so it's a lot of colorful accessories, I would say. So it's a neutral base with colorful, happy accessories and pops of color. So this is the living room, kind of the center of my apartment. As you can see, I love that it's an open space in here, so it goes right into the kitchen as well. But I knew I wanted to have a really big statement piece in here, and this burlwood console was like my dream piece. So this was my biggest splurge for the apartment. And it stores so much in it. It's been such a great apartment piece. I keep all my candles and decor and just a lot of little things in here, and it's a perfect apartment piece. And I also think it's like a neutral, item that can carry over to other apartments I move into, but still brings a little more design and pop than just a classic console would. On my console is a lot of my favorite things as well. I am a huge matchbook collector. This is just my New York matches, so I'm also a little OCD about how I organize my matches too. So these are all my New York matches through the last 10 years, really. You will always find me asking every restaurant, do you have any matches? And I know it's become such a trend the last few years, but very proud of this collection so far. This is just a fun print I got made of my cat Oscar and his little silhouette. Some more matches. These ones are for using, these ones are not. So again, I separate them by if you're allowed to light with a candle with them or not. I also have my frame TV that I have in both my bedroom and living room. I love that I can kind of put art on it, especially in moments like this where it's just, instead of being a classic TV, it brings a little more color and fun to a room. This is a fun display. It's one of my favorite coffee table books, Carolyn Bessette Kennedy style book, and just some fun inspo photos, especially now they're making the JFK show coming out, but it's a lot of just her style and breaking it down. So love having that displayed or swapping it out with another coffee table book, depending on the time of year. And then over here, I have some other like mementos and just souvenirs I've picked up for my travels. One of my favorite things to get when I'm traveling, especially in Europe, is like pottery or something I can display in my apartment. So this fish vase is from an amazing pottery shop in Malta when I was visiting there. And then this is Venetian glass that I picked up when I was in Venice and just love that. And this is a fun print I picked up in Nantucket where I go every summer with my friends for a week. And then kind of the other big statement thing was adding the sconces here. They are battery controlled, so I didn't wire them. Another great renter hack, and just added a remote controlled light bulb under here, but I'm obsessed with the sconces and just add like a pop of fun and color to it as well. Okay, so this couch was another key piece when decorating my apartment. I wanted to make sure I had a sleeper couch, so when I have guests come visit that I had extra room for them. So this is a pull-out couch, so comfortable still. This is where I also work most of the time. I love hosting as well, so I love having my friends over. I've always been kind of the person who is known for doing little dinner parties, even in a tiny New York apartment, making it work. So I do a cookie exchange every Christmas here, just festive events, birthdays, and also just Friday nights and of just having people over to watch TV. So great couch, fits a lot of people. And then, keeping a neutral base, but it's also a great fabric for having pets. It gets stains out. It's like that microfiber. So great for kids and pets, I would say. Pillow-wise and just decor, I wanted to have more fun accessories here and bring color in. This I did not make. This is from Furbish Studio, but they're my favorite place to get other fun needlepoint pillows and for gifts and stuff. And this is a favorite share quote of mine that I had to have put into a pillow form, of course. This Missoni blanket was a gift from my sister when I was her maid of honor, and it's such a fun pop of color too, and you can kind of swap it over when you want to show different patterns as well. And I also just love this chartreuse eye pillow. Again, I was just drawn to it, made me so happy, and it's such a good pop of color here as well. Then my art behind the couch, again, just wanted to keep it simple and be able to display a few different pieces at once. So I did the one shelf. These big frames are from Target, actually. We used to have them in my old apartment. We had 3 displayed, and I took one of them. There was 3 of us, so we each took one, and just have a great black and white photo of me and my girlfriends. This print I've had for a few years now. It's from artist Jen Ament, and I just thought it was so fun and kind of witchy and magical and just a great neutral but pop of pattern and color to the space. Over here, my sister gifted me this. It's a fun Oscar de la Renta stamp. I interned for Oscar right before I graduated college in the PR department, and it was a dream of an internship. He's my favorite designer. So a fun little memory there. So this is one of my favorites. I love looking through old photo albums when I'm home. I'm always taking photos on my cell phone and keeping them to look through or use for other times. But I found this photo from when my parents first started dating. They came on a vacation to New York together, which I didn't know until I found this in a photo album. And my mom took this from the plane of the sunrise, and it's just the perfect colors. And then I got it framed at Framebridge with like the coordinating pink frame. And it's just such a fun, special memory of, New York before I was even here. And then for my coffee table situation, so these are from the inside. They're like upholstered, X benches. I used to have them at the end of my bed in my old apartment. And then when I moved over here, I thought it was such a fun pop of pattern, just a different way of getting a classic coffee table, and can be moved out to be chairs for later and kind of have multi-uses. So use these as my coffee table. And I just added this tray on top with, of course, more matchbooks. Fun coasters that I've had for a few years now from Etsy. And then this was a gift from one of my friends, Megan, that I love Mary Kay and Ashley. And I'm not smoking, but just a fun ashtray, why not? And then over here, this disco ball has been a favorite in my apartments, especially when it is sunny out. It gives the best like sparkle light. We'll see if it does some of that and fills up the whole room. But I think it's just like a fun accessory, and why not? I'm a single girl in a New York apartment, might as well have a disco ball in it. So these chairs are actually from my grandma. My grandpa was a modern architect, and I grew up being surrounded by so many cool modern furniture in their house, and luckily enough was able to get 2 of these to bring to New York with me. So they've been in both my apartments and are just like a fun, different texture and pattern to bring into the space and doing a classic like soft chair. And then I just added a big cozy Hermes blanket, which was a special gift. And then another needlepoint pillow from Furbish Studio, because you can never have too many, and it is a very me saying to have this. This bookcase, instead of making into a bookcase, has been made into a bar cart and to display other things and storage. One of my favorite gifts to give, and something that I've created through the years, is framing champagne corks from special moments. So when my friends get engaged or get married, I've always found the champagne cork from the event and framed it for them and just put the date. But I've done it for all of my apartments. So here's one from my first apartment. With the date on it. And it's just an easy little party gift hack that I've loved to do, and actually was one of my most viral moments on social media. So I will continue doing this for a long time. Moving on, I've made this my little bar cart. As you can see, another needlepoint project of mine. My initials are C Hill, Chill. So I was drawn to the Chill Pill needlepoint, got that framed at Framebridge as well. But then I also just displayed like some of my fun glassware. These are from Estelle Glassware, both of these sets. They're just like the most beautiful, colorful glasses I love. And then the famous Anthropologie Juice Icon glasses. I'm from Northern Michigan, Traverse City, and we are the cherry capital of the world. So I'm always grown up with cherries being a part of everything. So it's just a little touch to my hometown. And then just some of my favorite alcohol, another little mini needlepoint project back here, a little champagne cork ornament that I just hung from my champagne. I'm a Scorpio, so a little Scorpio glass here. And then these were a gift from my friend Megan. They're cocktail stirrers from the Carlton Cannes Hotel. We went there last summer, and they were out of these when we went, and she found them for me and gifted them to me. So such a sweet little gift that she remembered there. Some other fun things over here. Again, the matchbook collection continues. These are ones from all different cities, and also some fun ones I've made for my friends and for different events through the year. So that's another little party hack of mine that I love to do. So this was a matchbook I did for our last party with my roommates that has Oscar on it, champagne, our initials, and was just a fun way to give gifts to all of our friends when they came to visit. I just made these ones for my niece who was born this week for the baby shower, baby girl Cash, and her theme was cherry on top. So I had to have a little cherry. But you'll see there's a lot from bachelorette parties to my friend Megan's 40th birthday. She loves butter, so I had to do butter themed matchbooks. And then also another needlepoint creation of mine. This was a fun canvas from Big Little Lies, if anyone remembers that show, and this quote. So that was one of my first projects, and I just love having it out to display. And then I just loved this lady, and she's made it through a few of our apartments and just adds a fun, little art moment over here. And then of course my coffee table book collection through the years just adds, covers kind of the crazy streets of New York and adds a little personality over here of just could leave this a bare space, but just add some fun over here. Definitely the biggest challenge is storage. I love clothes. It is part of my job. I also just I'm very sentimental. I like holding on to things. So New York apartments are not meant for that. It really makes you have to evaluate what is valuable to have in your home or what is going in storage. I luckily have a storage unit in this apartment. It doesn't hold much, but it's great for winter coats. So yeah, that is definitely a challenge. I have to switch over my closets each season. I have made sure that every furniture piece in this apartment has multi-uses to it. So it would never just be like a table with no drawers in it. Like those drawers are filled. You'll kind of see as we go around, like I have a shoe storage hack and like, makeup might have to go in the kitchen in some areas, but I will find a space for it that makes it look polished on the outside, but we're storing everything in. If I had the budget to change this apartment, I would make a bigger closet, which I know that's a storage thing. I would probably, my dream is to have a little more space to have like a desk. That's the one thing I don't have in here. I had that in my last apartment, which was great. And I said, oh, I'll work from my counter when I move alone. I don't work from my counter. I work from my couch, which is great. It's nice, but it definitely I miss having the desk. So I would make room for a desk for sure in my next place, or if space allowed here. I would say my biggest design tips are finding like unique ways to display the things that you love seeing. So like I have some like fun plates that I hung on the wall instead of just hanging up a photo there, or you'll see I framed like my champagne corks from all my different apartments. It's something I've started as like a tradition of framing the first champagne cork from my first night in my new apartments. You'll see a lot of my collections displayed everywhere too, my matchbook collections. It's just little mementos that, normally I think people would maybe throw into a cabinet or like find later, but I love displaying it and just having it be a conversation starter with people when they come here. But yeah, just, putting out the things that make you happy. I think people get so hung up on like having a Pinterest-worthy home or like a theme to each of their rooms, and really, if you buy the things you love and put it together, it will usually come out into the perfect room for you. The type of women I work with are, they all range in different styles and personalities and what their focus is on their content. But I do think one thing that has been kind of the tie up between all of them is just they are such like strong businesswomen. One of the biggest things when I started this on my own, I was like, I'm never gonna work with people who make me unhappy or make me feel bad. And like none of them do that. They are all just such great hardworking women, and so each have their own niche, and I think but all complement each other really well. So that's a great way of like how I'm able to pitch my talent. If they come looking for one Connecticut mom, I have a few of those, but they also have other niches, and like everyone kind of owns their own specialties, and I'm really excited to like always pitch them and showcase those special traits of them, but they all just complement each other so well. And I think being the hardworking, small business owner is kind of the key of that. Over here, I have another great closet storage here. So hang my coats in here, and also Oscar's litter box. So apartment hack there for cat owners, but fits a lot and is able to store in there. Also love a classic LL Bean bag and had to get Cat Lady on it for a fun little, ode to Oscar. Over here are some fun plates that I have had, and I just thought it was a great way to display them instead of putting them in cabinets. Another like art touch and just a fun way to do something different in the kitchen and have fun, quirky little sayings there. And then moving into the kitchen. So I love having this open kitchen. I brought bar stools from my last apartment here, and they've been great. And then, it's I'm able to host here really easily, have like cheese boards and wine, and my friends kind of gather around here and can be in and out of the kitchen when people are in here. Display some of my favorite cookbooks here. I love to bake when I'm actually home, so having, a treat for my friends on a little cake plate is great. This vase I had my eyes on for years from a site. It's an Italian splatter pottery, and I just love it, and added these dried hydrangeas I picked up from the Hamptons last year, and they look great still, so love that they've lasted. Art here, this is one of my favorite pieces. I picked these up when I was in Taormina, Sicily a few years ago from a really beautiful print shop, and just again, the cherry is like a nod to my hometown, and I just love the bright orange as well. So a really fun piece that I got matching frames for from Frame Bridge. And then again, this is where the magic happens of cooking. I do love to cook when I'm home, and this has been a great, great storage in this kitchen and having good space for cooking too. Classic Mackenzie Childs teapot. I make tea every night before bed. And then Over here are some other little fun mementos from trips. I got these when I went to Greece last year from Milos. This was our favorite meal of our trip, and these were the fun like terracotta cups that they served all of our glasses in. We all went home with a few of them. I got these also when I was in Sicily, little lemon salt and pepper shakers. Just thought they were so cute and are a fun memory every day when I use them. And then having different like olive oils and balsamics from my trips too, from Greece and Italy. They make the best, as we know, and so having them displayed here and being able to use every day is great. And then my entryway here is all about storage as well. So this is a shoe storage cabinet. It fits like a ton of shoes in here and is just like the best hack for apartments, especially skinny spaces. And then here too, finding like to the exact measurement. This is from West Elm. It worked so perfectly, this cabinet, that I keep like toiletries and just all my like medicine and stuff in here. But then have some of my favorite art, and these are custom. My friend Megan gifted me these when I moved to my apartment, matchbooks, the Hill Bar. So as I love collecting matchbooks, I love that my friends can take one as well when they visit. Just a little throw off for my keys, some favorite scents, and then another print I love so much is this illustration of Bemelman's bar again, which is my favorite bar that my friend Nicola gifted me, in this beautiful green frame bridge frame. I love doing like the colored frames for a little pop of color. And then this is the bathroom, which is great space. I got very lucky here. You know, it was already kind of decorated for me, which I love. The stripes were already built in here, which I think are just so fun. I went with Wheezy is my favorite for towels and all things bathroom. So I did the fun scalloped shower curtain and matching monogrammed hand towels and regular towels here. And then over here, I just added this marble tray to do some displays and have my like little things out. Another great storage hack is this toilet paper holder. Again, in a New York apartment, you have to think of everything and where you're gonna put it. And then this is filled with all my medicine, makeup, which is great, and then washer and dryer, which is a dream in a New York apartment. I feel very lucky to have. So I probably see myself here for another year or two. I love this apartment. I love the location, but definitely I would love to have a little more space, maybe a 2-bedroom if that would be available. You know, New York renting is so fun. But I love Williamsburg. It's definitely staying in Brooklyn. I've also would love to explore maybe another Brooklyn neighborhood, but for now I see myself kind of staying roots here, and I just love the neighborhood favorites I found and how it just feels so comfortable and safe here for me now. I would say home to me is comfort and peace. I love the feeling I get when I come back to my apartment after like a long travel week or just a long day. I literally take like a deep breath of fresh air. It feels like when I come in here, like it is all the things that make me happy. It's my cat greeting me. It is just a space I feel so safe and comfortable in and brings me joy. It has all my favorite things in it. So there's nothing better sometimes than a Friday night on my couch with Oscar, my friends, and some good takeout. And I think that is a true sign of like when you really love your home.
Today we're stepping inside the London flat of Domenica Marland, an art dealer, homeware designer, and curator whose home reflects her love of color, comfort, and thoughtful collecting.
I'm a big reader, and so I like to kind of have all my favorite books on display so I can think about them and pick them up whenever I need to. And I also love collecting vintage books like this one. I don't even know why I have this, but I love the colour, and it's a book about a woman in Venice, and I used to live in Venice, so it's pretty cool.
After studying art history and working in the art world, Domenica set out to create something she felt was missing, a platform for discovering affordable, unique works by emerging artists. What began as a self-built website soon grew into a creative business rooted in championing new talent and helping a new generation build meaningful collections in their own homes.
Here is an antique desk that I got from my parents. I would actually love to use it as a desk, but I think it looks really nice when it's closed as well as open. And again, with the kind of old and new, it's something that I keep loving exploring in the design of this flat.
Today, her London flat is a reflection of that same ethos, personal, layered, and filled with pieces that tell a story.
Join us as we stop inside Domenica's world and explore the cozy, pattern-filled space she's created for herself.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Domenica Marland and welcome to my flat in London.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Domenica Marland and I'm an art dealer and homeware designer and curator. This is my home in London, England. I started out in my career back in 2018 after I was at university, and I found that there was no platform or website to find affordable and unique works of art. I was studying art history at the time, and my background is working in the art world, and I wanted to curate a platform that felt very personalised and unique for customers, you know, early 20s and 30s, just moving into their first flats and homes in London, to find special artworks that weren't just from museum galleries of posters and weren't just from antique shops, but were from contemporary artists who were starting out in their career as well. So the website started very slowly. I built it myself, which in hindsight was probably not the best idea because it had a lot of issues along the way, but we've got to a good place with it now. And we started representing more and more artists, and that was a real passion of mine, seeking new talent. And yeah, selling affordable art was really at the forefront of the business for a while, until about 4 years ago, when the cost of living crisis sort of started happening, and a lot of the homeware brands that I was friends with or knew about, they were really struggling, and people were not prioritizing sort of shopping small and independent brands, and they were more kind of going to the high street brands for Christmas presents or birthday presents. And I wanted to, you know, highlight these talented brands and bring them onto the platform. So that's when we created Domenica Marland Home. And then since then we have been designing our own homeware pieces and collection, which is now at the forefront of the business. This is the main room of the apartment, and it's the kind of sitting room area. I spend a lot of time in here because I work mostly from in here, but I also have a studio down in Wiltshire that we have for pretty much most of the time. But when I'm in London, I work from here. And I love this sofa so much. It's very comfortable, but it is very low to the ground. It was a vintage sofa that I recovered in a Beata human fabric. It's a bit manic for everything else in the room, but I love pattern on pattern and pattern with different things, so it kind of works for me, I guess. And these were offcuts from the bed head, the Ottoline fabric that I got made into some extra cushions that, funny enough, go really well on here and in the room in terms of colour. And I love needlepoint cushions, and we have these for sale on Domenica Marland, and this is one of my favourites. I just think, first of all, the colours are great, and I just like what it says. And they are really popular with us, and I just can't help but keep a few myself, especially this one, which is very, very true for me. I do love hosting, but I like people to leave on the dot of 9 and no later. It makes me sound very boring, I know, but it's very true. And obviously I collect a lot of art, and I like to kind of showcase it as best as I can, but obviously I'm running out of space in this flat because I've got so much. And every piece is very particular and important to me, and they all have sort of stories to tell. This is one that I bought quite a few years ago from the Royal Academy summer exhibition. It's by an artist called Francesca Calusi, who collects vintage postcards, and then she will go into them and embroider them, and I just think, and she'll kind of make it seem something different from what it was first meant to be. This one above is by one of our artists called Liat Greenberg. I bought that one from a recent drop we did because I just love, I love the colours and think they're just really pleasing. My next phase of collecting is going to be collecting French embroidery framed pieces. I just think they're so beautiful. And again, it's got someone's name on it who I have no idea who she is, but I kind of like to imagine what she would have been like. And now it's nice that I can have her name on my walls. This is a piece by one of our artists, Ruby Bateman, who there was a larger piece in the other room. She painted that for me, which was really lovely. And this is something that I bought in a market in Provence this summer. I think I bought it for literally 40 euros, but I absolutely love it. And it might be a beginning of a painting and unfinished, but I kind of just love how peaceful it is, and will always treasure that. This is an artwork by Leonore Finney. I bought a collection of her work at auction because she was one of the most female surrealist artists in the 30s and 40s, and I was really lucky to find a bargain with her pieces at auction, and these are a set of lithographs, and they are for sale, but if they do get sold, I'm going to be very sad that they sell. This is a really special piece by the modern British artist Augustus John, and I just love the colours in this one. And then in contrast, I've got a new artwork by the contemporary artist Fei Weiwei that I bought from Cobb Gallery, which is just down the road. And what I love most about collecting art is that I can collect old and new. So like an old kind of painting that was made in the 1900s sitting next to a new contemporary artwork. I just love the juxtaposition and how they can both correlate with each other and tell different stories. And over here, this is my desk. As I say, when I'm in London, this is where I work from. Otherwise, I'll work from our studio in the countryside. I like to have sort of things that inspire me around, but it's quite tidy right now. These are some of our penny plant pots that I love putting geraniums in, and I'm really into collecting geraniums and kind of looking after them. I think there's something quite nice about doing that. And this is a chair that I bought from Cherado and a matching seat cushion, which I think is really nice to have at a desk. And the desk itself I bought on Lots Road auctions, and I just think it's quite simple because everything is a bit much in this flat in terms of pattern and colour. So yeah, I think it works quite well in the space. This, as I said, is one of my favourite pieces. It's a coffee table that I think I bought on Facebook Marketplace for about £20, and then I recovered it in a Beata Human fabric. I love designing a coffee table. It sounds weird, but there's something quite cool about curating the coffee table, because I do kind of think it's something that your guests see or you see when you come into the room. And I love changing up and like decorating, sort of like in this case I've got like a tray within one of our trays. This is one of our newer trays that we have recently designed in a blue and a green. That's a sample actually. And then having the coasters when I have people around. But yeah, I just love little trinkets, and this is something that my godmother made. She's a garden designer, and she put a beautiful leaf in this kind of pink Pyrex frame. And coming over here is another mantelpiece, which I'm very lucky to have. And again, this is something that I love to decorate and change up bi-weekly. Usually I've got lots of cards hanging around, or like wedding invitations or postcards that mean a lot to me. And I think it's quite nice to put smaller artworks. This is a piece by Beatrice Hazel McCosh, who is an artist that we used to represent, and she gave this to me as a gift. I'm a big dog person, and this is a Staffordshire dog that I collected. I definitely want to try and collect more of these. And this is a really special piece to me. It is a silk scarf actually, and I for a while used to collect silk scarves, and this one in particular is something my godmother designed of my parents' house in the countryside, because that's where her office used to be, and she is a textile designer. She was a very big back in the 80s, called Georgina van Exdorf, and this was one of her designs, and I just love it because I not only think of her, but I also think of my home when I see it. And I'm a big reader, and so I like to kind of have all my favourite books on display so I can think about them and pick them up whenever I need to. And I also love collecting vintage books like this one. I don't even know why I have this, but I love the colour, and it's a book about a woman in Venice, and I used to live in Venice, so it's pretty cool. This is a really sweet artwork that is about to drop in our next art drop by Sean Beck. They're really popular pieces, and they're tiny, so I think they can go into any space. Coming over here, this is a little bar area that I have made. Because the flat's quite small, I need a lot of storage pieces where I can get them. And this is a piece that I got from Chelsea Textiles and houses a lot of random things in it, including jumpers and stuff that I don't have space for in my closet. And this is one of my favourite artworks that I've bought in the last few years, and it's a jelly by Florence Houston, again from Lindsay Ingram, and I just love it, and the colour goes really well with this angle poise lamp that I have. And then on the bar area, I've got another one of our new Allegra trays, with this time in brown and pink, and then one of our quite classic yoke trays that we just did a collaboration with Yoke in a lacquer, and then designed this really sweet pattern to go with it. And I think it's really fun to put alongside other trays and then to have with your glasses. So the other part of the sitting room, I love this armchair that it's vintage, and I got covered in a Rapture and Right fabric with these pillows that I really love. And then here is a antique desk that I got from my parents. I would actually love to use it as a desk, but I think it looks really nice when it's closed as well as open. And again, with the kind of old and new, is something that I keep loving exploring in the design of this flat, like with the new fabric of the Rapture and Right, and this kind of antique feel. And then I have this amazing vase by another one of our brands called Vaseful, who are based in Germany, and they make these incredible vases in lots of different colours. And I just think it's really a really cool statement for a room. This one's in a navy, and then behind is another artwork by Fei Weiwei. And over here is a bench that I found from the antique dealer called Rococo, and she recovers really cool pieces in newer fabrics, and this is another Otterline fabric, which is just great, and I think it goes very well with the vibe of the other things in the apartment as well. And I just think it's a great little piece to have in any room, and hopefully I'll take it with me wherever I go. And this is another artwork that is by an artist called Rose Hilton, who was a modern British artist, and she's very interesting because her husband was a famous artist called Roger Hilton, who was very well known, but he had a very bad temper, and they met at art school, but he didn't allow her to paint when they got married. He said, you know, the women should stay in the kitchen, literally he said that. And then after his death, she embarked again on her painting career, and this was one of the paintings to come out of that time, and I just think it's a really lovely piece, and I try and make sure I collect artworks by female artists that are very inspiring and have an interesting story to tell. And finally, this is an artwork of my dog, Dido, that I got painted of her by an artist called Sarah Bloomfield. She is on holiday right now, so she's not here, but when she is away, I like to be able to look at it. And I think it's really sweet. It really captures her eyes. She's quite a worried dog, so it really reminds me of her. I moved into this flat about 2 years ago, and it was through a friend of mine who owns the building, and he had this flat going and asked me if I wanted to move in. I said yes immediately because the flat is in the heart of Bloomsbury, so we're just off Lamb's Conduit Street, which has amazing restaurants and cafes, and I thought it was an amazing opportunity to live in central London, which I feel is so rare these days with the increasing house prices and rent going up. So I moved in very quickly and it became home straight away. The place was completely unfurnished, and that was a really exciting thing for me to do and decorate. And yeah, it's been the first time living alone, which has been really, really exciting as well. The flat was completely unfurnished when I moved in, and we're also the top floor, so bringing furniture in was quite difficult, but also a great challenge. I originally did have a few pieces from previous homes, but also I wanted to make sure I sourced a new few pieces to make it feel fresh and like a new place. I am a big believer of eBay and Facebook Marketplace, so a lot of the pieces came from there. And one of my favourite things to do is recover and upholster. So a lot of the pieces in here will have been done by sort of my amazing upholsterers. And then a lot of pieces came from my parents that they didn't want anymore, or things that I found. I obviously moved in when the homeware business just started going, so a lot of the pieces are by my homeware makers and some pieces that I've designed or samples. So yeah, it's an eclectic mix, but hopefully shows that it's all my taste at the same time. My favourite piece, I think, in this room is this coffee table that I recovered in a Beata Human fabric, and it's her Florentine fabric, which really resonates with me because I love Florence. It's my favourite place, and it also adds a bit of sophistication, and it's not too busy, but the green ties in with the other greens in the room, because I'd say that's definitely my favourite colour. And I don't know, I think it could fit into any space, and I'm sure it will come to my every home with me. So this is the kitchen, and it's actually a pretty big space for the size of the flat, which I'm really lucky about. I love cooking, and any excuse to like have friends over and host is really important. The flat came with this structure that my friend built in the flat before I got here. So it's super useful actually to put all of my sort of trinkets and bits and bobs on the shelves. I am a massive glass collector and love all things glass. So I bought like these, for example, come back from Venice when I lived there. And these are actually some samples that we're just testing out for some new products. And these are also our kind of staple Domenica Marland home collection glasses that we made in Murano, which I absolutely love. And then sort of these ones are vintage Murano, so super special, and I was given these as a present from my mum, which was very nice. And then also our wine glasses that actually they sell out every time that we have them online. They come in a set of two in two different sort of styles. One's called the Dido glass after my dog, and then this one's the Adrian glass, and they're just kind of the perfect things for hosting and when you have people over for drinks. But I can't even have enough myself because every time I put them online they sell out. I love collecting plates, As you can see, I always like to buy a nice plate. I obviously don't have enough space on this wall, but this is a plate that we did with one of the brands that we have online called Actos. That's an exclusive collaboration. This was a little plate that I got recently. I was on holiday in Brazil, and one of the people we were on holiday with gave it to me as a present. And I love this one especially by another one of our brands called Sveva Home. And she just puts really like iconic things on the plates in sort of handwritten wording. I can resist anything but dessert, which feels very, very me because I have a massive sweet tooth. And yeah, other things that I love are, we've got one of our Allegra trays that have done really well for us, and I think it's quite nice to be able to use it in the kitchen, which is not something I thought I would use it for. I thought when I designed it that I would have it for the coffee table or a bar area, but I think it works really well to like hold everything on here and make it look tidy, even though it's not necessarily tidy. And yeah, I just thought by kind of stacking artworks with books, I thought it kind of gives the kitchen a bit of a more interesting element and make it feel a bit more curated, which to anyone sounds a bit ridiculous, but as someone who loves to collect things, I think it's really nice to be able to fiddle around and rearrange things. I think anyone who knows me knows that I will literally rearrange my my space once a day at least. So every time someone comes over, the place is completely different. Another thing that I love, and I think my favourite things in the kitchen, are these Miranda Barrow mugs that I collect. I try and buy one like once a year, and they're just the perfect size to have a cup of tea out of. And I think once you've found a mug that serves you well for a cup of tea, nothing's better. Coming over here, I always love to lay a table, and tonight I've actually got friends coming over, so this was the perfect excuse. Obviously, kind of table design and tablescaping is really important to me with my job, and I love the opportunity to kind of put different things together, like different tablecloths from different brands and new designs. For example, this is a Lisa Corti tablecloth that I bought this year in Rome that I'd always had my eye on. And then I think it pairs really well with our Victoria lacquer placemats to make it feel a bit more kind of robust. And then our kind of cutlery that we also sell online, which is really fun with this tablecloth as well. And then I'm very lucky in this apartment to have 2 mantelpieces. I always dreamed of living somewhere with a mantelpiece because it's an extra place to be able to store your favourite things and artworks, and it's a great focal point for a room. So with this piece, this is one of my favourite artworks that I have. It's by an artist called Georgie Hopton, who I bought from a friend who has a gallery called Lindsay Ingram, and her artwork, she works in collage, but also these amazing kind of block prints that she makes with vegetables from her garden and the twigs that she finds in her garden. I just think there's something so simple but effective about this piece. I love obelisks, and this is a piece that my previous boss got for me as a present for working for him. I used to work a lot in the art world, and for my last job before setting up my business, this was one of my presents, and I absolutely love it. And these are the iconic candlesticks by one of my best friends who owns Bias Editions. They're really amazing, and I think they kind of brighten up any space. And then over here I have a little vintage table that I bought from a friend of mine called By Alice, and she sources lots of amazing antiques and decorative pieces. And I paired it with this marble lamp base that my mum actually bought from me from a antiques fair. And I absolutely love it. I think it's just so sophisticated and very grounding for any space. And it's paired with this spooky lampshade. And then this is another one of my favourite pieces, which is kind of quite abstract for my taste, but it's by an artist called Carolina Mezzarali, and she designed a costume for the National Ballet with her husband, Conrad Shawcross, and this was a remnant of the fabric for the ballet costumes. And I'm really interested in artists who collaborate together through marriages and things, and yeah, this is just a really special piece to me. It also glows in the dark, which is pretty cool. I work from home, so making sure the place feels as inspiring as possible is really important to me, and I always like to get new ideas from the pieces around me, whether it's like a print or an artwork or a colorway. So I kind of try and decorate my flat with pieces that inspire me every day, but also are nice pieces to have around, and that everything has a story to tell. I always think that's important. I mean, you'll see it's quite a lot going on, but every piece has a really important meaning to me. And this year especially, I'm trying to be very much more considered in my choices and with the things that I have around. So yes, it's all very nice to have an inspiring kind of place to work from. So this is my bedroom, and I'd say it's my favourite room in my very small flat because I love sleeping, as quite a lot of people do, and I just like to spend a lot of time in bed. And one of my main things is to always make my bed feel like a hotel bed, because I think that makes it feel so enticing. So I'm big on linen, and I collect linen. I bought these two cushions from a market in Provence, which I absolutely love. They've got someone's initials on them, and I kind of love that I think about who that might be when I go to bed at night. And this is a really, really sweet cushion that's actually for sale on my website by Vulgar Linen. And they do these really, really sweet sort of mini cushions that you can embroider in any colour or any text. And I just think they're really nice presents and for babies. And I'm actually giving one to my niece for her first birthday with her name on it. So I just think they're really nice. And then just to go into a bit more detail, these are also from Vulgar Linen, and they've also got a D on them, and you can put any other initial on them. And these are just a really lovely linen that are very durable, and Vulgar Linen is a really lovely company. My quilt is one of my favourite pieces actually, and that I definitely take if I could save anything from a fire. It's by Salvesen Graham and Yoke, who we also did a collaboration with, and it's just so cozy. And then I've got this matching water bottle, which in the winter is used 5 times a day. No lie. I've always got like a few trinkets on my bedside table. I love collecting Janori pieces. I was recently given this vintage Janori trinket, and then this one with my name on it, and I just think they're really nice to store by your bed. And I've got these lovely lampshades by Alice Palmer, and I think they just add a bit of warmth to the room, because it's not a hugely warm paint colour, but it is kind of a demure style, so I think they tie in very nicely with the room. I have a little sort of kind of skincare set up here. I'm really into skincare, as you might tell from here, and it's one of my favourite things to do is just kind of sit here and fiddle around with all my new kind of things that I'm testing that I share to followers and things like that, so I love that. This is an artwork that I really love. It's one of the first pieces that I bought by one of our artists online called Ruby Bateman, and there's something just sort of quite peaceful about it, and I always think that the figure's sort of in a dream. That's why it's quite nice to have in the bedroom, and it's a big enough piece for this wall, and I was kind of thinking about framing it, but actually it's sort of quite nice unframed, and yeah, I really, really love this piece. One of my other favourite things in this apartment is my pink chaise longue. Amazingly, it kind of just goes perfectly in the space that it was in, and with these kind of toile pink curtains that were not for this space at all. They were from another house, but I kind of made it work. They're completely the wrong height, but a nice accident that they went really well with the chaise longue, and I've kind of lent into the whole pink vibe, especially with this artwork by one of our other artists, Tasha France. It's an abstract piece, and she very kindly gave this one to me, which I really love. I made this headboard when I moved into this flat. I knew I really wanted a nice sort of princessy headboard to make me feel, again, like I'm in a hotel. And the fabric is from Otterline, who is a friend of mine, and I wanted to find just a sample of fabric. I didn't want anything too fancy, so I found this sample that she was selling, and it's worked really well. And these pictures that I've got 3 across the headboard, and I found them in a market in Florence about 2 years ago, and I got them reframed in these frames. I think this is a Yerbridge green from Farrenball, which I love. When I'm talking to my friends or clients about how to decorate a home, I always think starting with the artworks on your wall is one of the most important things you can do, because if you have a plain wall and you put an artwork on it, it immediately refreshes a space. And I always think one collects a lot of prints and unframed things, and I think the first step is to frame your artworks and put them on the wall. And it can just make a place feel very homely instantly and like it's been lived in. So in my hallway, this is the first thing that people see when they come into the flat, and this is a little nook. This is a vintage table that I found for literally £25, and then a old Matilda Goad lamp with Liberty that she did for Liberty. And then this is a really beautiful, again, modern British piece by a female artist called Jennifer Durant, and I think it's just really cool and like 60s and has all my favourite colours on it, so it's a really nice piece to walk into every day. And then in the hallway we have these jam lampshades which give a really nice light out. It feels very warm when you come in rather than like a stark lighting, and yeah, I love those. And this is a very small little but very important room in the flat, which is my very hectic closet that definitely is not enough space, but I've tried to make it work with what we've got. I'm very into fashion and clothes, and it's definitely like a huge part of my personality. So collecting clothes is almost like collecting homeware for me. I just can't resist. Yeah, a few of my favourite things are like this J.W. Anderson bag, this kind of dress. I love a cool shirt. I love gold shoes, funnily enough. I don't know why. These ones are from Bowden. And then also these really cool ones from Loeffler and Randall. And I also love headbands as well. So there's a lot of headbands in here. There's a lot of shoes, a lot of bags, but yeah, it's crazy. And these ones are some really cool Mary Janes that I just bought. We just did a pop-up at Flabulous, and I love their shoes so much. So yeah, this is my small but very chaotic closet. This flat is really special to me because it was the first place I've lived alone, and it is such a home to me, but I definitely feel like it's a launch pad for other projects that I'd like to do. I can't wait to do a renovation soon, and this has given me so many ideas of how I like to live, what features I like to be around, and I just love being in here, and will always see this as one of my favourite homes that I've ever lived in. Homeworthy, it was so nice showing you around. See you soon.
So when I was designing this apartment, and whenever you're thinking about designing a small space, I think people's instinct is for everything to go smaller. And I think that that's actually a completely wrong thing to do. So in this apartment, you will see that almost all of the furniture, the scale of it is, the scale that you would find in a normal sized house versus a small New York apartment. I did not measure a single piece of furniture in this apartment. I did not hold any swatches together because I just know that if I'm drawn to it and I love it, it's gonna work in this space.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Windsor. Let's hang out in my apartment. My name is Windsor Dalton. I'm an interior designer, and we're in my 550 square foot apartment in the Upper West Side of New York City. So I might look a little familiar to you because I have been on Homeworthy before in my North Carolina home. So my husband and I split time between North Carolina and New York for work purposes, and we have loved having this little space in the city. So I was living in LA for a while, and then during COVID, we moved back to North Carolina, a little bit begrudgingly so on my end, but I'm born and raised in North Carolina, so after I got back into the swing of things, I was happy to be there. A lot of people don't know this, but North Carolina actually is the furniture capital of the world. So for me as an interior designer, it's an amazing place to be for work. But we did have a little bit of an itch missing a metropolitan city, and my husband is in New York a lot for work. So after a couple years of staying in hotels, we decided it was probably worth looking for an apartment. We saw this apartment totally virtually, so we just saw pictures and videos of it. And we had no floor plan, we did not know the exact square footage, anything. And we got this apartment and I purchased basically, I would say, 90% of the furniture without knowing any of the dimensions, just based off of the pictures and kind of gauging, because I was excited and ready to go. And if you know me, you know that I'm one of the most impulsive people on the planet. So on move-in day, I'm gonna have every picture hung, every bed is gonna be made. I am crazy when it comes to installs and moving. I felt so in love with the high ceilings and all of the beautiful architectural details here. I sketched up a quick plan on my iPad and then started sourcing furniture. A month later, we shipped a truck up here, came up here with our bags, and now it's a little slice of home. So this is the main living area of the space. I wanted this room to feel like a comfortable living area, but we also needed to figure out how to incorporate some dining area. So I did a small little table setup with a tulip table and 2 chairs in the back. So that's perfect, keeps it out of the way, because day to day we're usually just having, a cup of coffee there or something. But in this room, I wanted it to feel warm and inviting, and also really functional if we have a couple friends over, or if we're just hanging out, reading a book, watching a show, something like that. So we have a nice big sofa with a bench seat, which I love, an antique coffee table, and then a great swivel chair and ottoman. So we can easily fit, I would say, 5-6 people in here comfortably sitting for a drink or something. The walls we had to work with the existing color that was here, but I love to enjoy all of this beautiful woodwork, and of course, the big bay window in the back is really such a showstopper. And I love that this little table setup is kind of nested right in that vignette. It's so nice, whether it's a beautiful summer day or in the winter watching the snowfall, to just sit out there and kind of watch the world go by. So this coffee table is actually from one of my favorite antique vendors in North Carolina called Collected by Schwung. We do a lot of work with them, and I was actually in their showroom sourcing for a design client one day, and I saw this and I thought it was just so beautiful, so sculptural, and the perfect little size for in here. So this was a must. It also actually has this cool swivel effect. It's on like a little gimbal, and it's from, I believe, the 19th century in France, but it's such a cool piece. And I think, again, in a small space, you kind of have to have a lot of bang when it comes to these pieces. So I love that this almost is like an art piece. But that same day at that showroom, I also found this guy here. So I'm a big sculpture fan. I love incorporating sculptures as artwork. And like I said, pieces just speak to me. He spoke to me. I fell in love with him. So he had to come, and he's the perfect little addition to this mantle. So the mantle is original to the apartment, which was such a huge bonus. It's obviously non-functional. I wish it was, but so we just did some birchwood logs in here for decoration. They actually had a not super attractive tile here originally, so I just did a renter-friendly peel and stick tile on top of this, just to kind of like tone it down a little bit, and again bring in some of those kind of like earthy muted tones. And I think it works so well with this abstract piece. This piece I just fell in love with when I saw it. So it's from an art company called Left Bank Art. I work with them a lot, and they surprisingly have a showroom in North Carolina and in New York, so it's a perfect little spot for me. But I saw this one day, and between the movement, the colors, and the texture of it, everything about it I just loved. And I think over a mantle like this, a square piece always looks a lot stronger. So I think the scale and overall aesthetic of it really just worked perfectly with this vignette. So one of the things that sold us on this apartment was the exposed brick. One, it is just so beautiful, and you can tell this building is over 100 years old. So just seeing the age and knowing all of the different lives that have been through here, I just love looking at these. It has so much character and provides such a warm, inviting feel into the whole apartment. But with the brick walls, it does become a little tricky to hang things and figure out what you're gonna do with them. So shout out to my girl Rachel Zoe. This was actually a Rachel Zoe mirror, again, that I found at Home Goods. I was not looking for it and just happened to stumble upon it, and it was like an incredible value. So I thought, hey, why not try it in here? It bounces so much light off in this space. And I love the little metalwork detail around here. I think it works really well with all the other elements in here. But I think it's really important to have a full-length mirror in every space. You don't realize when you're in a small apartment that trying to nook and cranny into the bathroom mirror can be a little tricky sometimes. So having this has been such a huge game changer. It makes the apartment feel so much larger, and I love that it just leans right up against the original exposed brick. So I think with lighting, you can make a huge visual punch, but when it came to the overhead lighting, I knew I wanted to do something a little bit more bold and a little bit more dramatic. So this is another Regina Andrew piece that I absolutely love. I love the smoked glass spheres. It feels so moody, and it just adds so much character into the space. Again, with the scale, because we have the great height of these ceilings, I went really oversized with this piece. This is actually a chandelier, and I just hung it at kind of almost like a semi-flush height. But it's great because it's dimmable. At night, it gives this really beautiful glow. But I love this sculptural element in here. I think when you're looking at all of these different shapes and sizes in this space, it really brings a lot of visual interest in. And I think it helps elevate this so much more than just doing a standard flush mount or something for function. It's such a beautiful piece that I think it really helps tie this whole room together. So this is another North Carolina favorite. This sofa is such a wonderful piece. It has a big bench seat, which I love, which means just one single cushion. It also doubles though as a twin mattress pretty much. So if you take these pillows off the back, you can put a twin sheet on here, and it's a perfect little bed if we do have an extra guest staying here. But one of my favorite accessories that I was so happy to be able to bring in was another one of my licensed fabrics here and these beautiful pillows. So this is called Whispering Branches, and I designed this with Post House Design, who's based out of New York. This is such a beautiful, more traditional kind of fabric, but I think it really is a fun punch and kind of play in this space with some of these more modern elements. So I would describe my style as definitely very moody, masculine, and kind of cozy. I still like it to feel clean and very timeless, but I love for a space to just feel warm and inviting. I think one of my favorite feelings to kind of capture is that like late afternoon, early evening when you have the lights dim, the candles on, and you're ready to just curl up and feel totally comfortable in the space. Like I said, we got so lucky with the architectural details here, the exposed brick, the beautiful woodwork, everything adds so much warmth. But with it being a rental and having some limitations, you know, I tried to do my best to put our personal touch and spin on it. And you'll notice throughout all of the kind of color palettes, green is about as much color as I like to lean into. I'm a very neutral person, but I did want to bring a little bit of color in here, and I always love to bring like those earth tones. So you'll see a lot of golds, browns, and greens, and it just feels really warm and inviting. And after a really hectic day out in the city, it's so nice to come back here and just relax and feel like you have your little safe haven. So as I've mentioned, North Carolina is the furniture capital of the world, and I'm a big proponent of North Carolina made furniture. And so much furniture is made right in our backyard in North Carolina in High Point. So when I was sourcing, I really wanted to utilize vendors that I had great relationships with and vendors that I knew we were gonna have really high quality pieces, because we have such few pieces in the apartment, so I wanted to make sure that every piece we had was super functional and durable and also beautiful. So as you see some of these pieces, every single thing has come from either a vendor or a showroom that I have a close relationship with. And I love being able to bring a little taste of North Carolina into the city. So this is our little entryway that we have here. And what I love is that all of this woodwork, all of the framing provides so much visual interest and contrast in the space. The wood tone we actually got pretty lucky with. I think it's a really great warm wood tone. But in this space, you know, we have the really high ceilings, so I appreciate that back in the day they made these doorways so tall, because it again makes a small space feel much larger. And right here I have a really fun little reproduction of a Picasso, who's one of my favorite artists, as it is a lot of people's. But this actually covers our electrical box, because right when you walked in the apartment, I hated seeing this electrical box. So here it lives, and I love when you walk in to see this little burst of color, and it's a nice way to just kind of soften the entry. So how did I become an interior designer? I was born and raised in North Carolina, which is the furniture capital of the world, and my mom worked for an interior design company for our whole childhood, but we just grew up around the industry. So my entire childhood, I was sitting on my Game Boy at like fabric stores while my mom was shopping for fabric. But as a young child, I was in love with interiors, with creating like emotion with spaces. So I probably redecorated my room, I would say twice a year. So I would like paint the walls, get new bedding, everything. When I'm like 10 years old, I'd be at Big Lots or something with the like $20 I had trying to find things, hanging posters on the wall. So I always just had this affinity for what interiors could do for you and how it could make you feel. And then during COVID, when, as everyone did, I had extra time on my hands, we were trapped in our LA apartment. My husband was like, you should really think about finding something to fill your time, because I was going a little crazy. And so I said, you know what? I'm constantly styling for photo shoots. I'm doing all this stuff. I have a love for interiors. I'm just gonna start sharing, my style tips, things that I love on social media, and see what happens. And I just started gaining more and more traction. So the business kind of just naturally evolved itself. So I slowly started taking on smaller projects and, doing one room, one vignette, changing out somebody's pillows, ordering one sofa, to now doing like full home renovations. There's nothing more that I love than sourcing furniture, looking at fabrics, sketching things up on my iPad. It never has felt like work for me for one day in my life. So I think this is what I'm put on this earth to do. So this little area worked out so perfectly. So we have a 36-inch tulip table from Amazon, and then these are Theodore Alexander chairs, which is another one of my favorite North Carolina brands. I love the pattern on here. It adds kind of its own little flair to this corner, but this is super, super functional, which I love. it also feels separated in like its own space over here. And again, the bay window is just, I mean, you cannot beat it when it comes to a New York apartment. And another feature of these that I love is in the evenings or when you want a little privacy, these actually all have pocket shutters. So these can fold out here and you have all these little panels, which are so nice for every single window. It also in the summer helps keep things a little cooler. So in the summer, if we're gone for the whole day, we'll keep the shutters drawn, and then you walk in the apartment, it stays nice and cool. But this is just such a great area to have a quick, easy dinner, a cup of coffee, or even, you know, if you're working from home, it's a great place to feel like you're sitting upright and you have a designated, you know, table and chair to really feel like you can accomplish something. So art is a very funny thing for me. It's one of the few spaces I feel like in which I struggle with clients, because for me, art comes very easily. I saw this piece and immediately fell in love with it. I also am a big figurative art lover. So anything that has like a face or, you know, any type of like personality, I'm immediately drawn towards. But I think abstracts allow you a lot of flexibility in a space. So when we can kind of combine those, I think that that's the best of both worlds. Like we have the abstract over the mantle. This is kind of more of a figurative piece. But, you know, again, I really just impulse bought this. I saw it in the showroom and fell in love with it. To me, it just has it has such a story and so much interest, and every time I look at this piece, I feel like I see something a little different. And this is where, I don't know if this is just luck or like how my intuition works, but I brought it in here and I feel like all of these tones work perfectly with the wood tones. And it's just a great way to fill up this wall. Again, we have really high ceilings, so I went much larger scale on the artwork. And I think we needed a little color on these walls since they are white to balance out the exposed brick. So it's just a nice way to kind of layer a piece in, gain some visual interest, and also, you know, add a little bit of expression of what I love. I love being in the city. I love the energy of New York. I love that you can walk out of your door with no plan and do something fantastic with your entire day. On the flip side though, one of the reasons that we chose the Upper West Side is because I do get a little overstimulated at times, and I feel like, you know, if we've been downtown shopping or something like that, I need kind of a break from the chaos. So the Upper West Side to me is so like homey residential feeling. It's very calming. There's quiet streets. You know, we have all of our favorite restaurants in just a couple blocks from us, the flower shops around the corner. Everything that we need is right here. So like during the week, if we are, you know, just having a mundane day, it's very easy and feels like a regular life being in the Upper West Side. I also just love all of the architectural elements that you find up here. I think that all the brownstones, you know, there's nothing like them. And the tree-lined streets and just everything about the Upper West Side, I think, feels like home. So that's kind of the main living and dining area, but I want to show you our cozy little bedroom, and I really mean little. So this bedroom, as you can see, is really tight, but I love all of the details in here. So one of my favorite architectural elements, of course, is the exposed brick wall again. But I wanted to be able to fit at least a queen size bed in here. So this is a queen. It is really tight in this room, but I love having a formal bedroom setup. I've also incorporated in here one of my licensed fabrics from my collection with Post House Design. I didn't want a huge headboard or footboard or anything like that to save on space. So doing these really large, almost headboard-like accent pillows, I think really bring in a lot of visual interest here. And of course, we're in my favorite color scheme of the greens and the golds and the neutrals. But I did a velvet coverlet, which I love the texture and the warmth of this. And then just a classic linen duvet that coordinates really perfectly, I think, with the Post House collection. But this room is small, but I do think it's very mighty. I feel like it's a beautiful space. I have these really large scale table lamps from Regina Andrew, which is one of my favorite lighting manufacturers. And I actually paired this with a Regina Andrew nightstand. And I love the old world quality of this because to me, this feels like something that could have been found in this apartment, you know, 60, 70 years ago. layered in a couple more kind of like, again, figurative abstract art pieces. And I wanted to go a little darker in here. Again, we have all these white walls, so where I can bring in some mood and some color, I wanted to. So we went dark on the rug, the art's dark, and we have kind of this moody masculine bedding, which I love. But one of my favorite ways to bring visual interest into a room that has a mostly neutral color palette is with texture. So that's where you'll see we have like this lacquered finished here. I have the linen on the pillows, velvet here, velvet here. We obviously have the texture of the brick. So I love combining all of these elements to create something, you know, that feels interesting, but doesn't feel like you have so much color in your face. I think your bedroom should always be very calming and kind of like an oasis. And I love that it just feels so grounded in here. So the bedroom being small was definitely a little bit of a design challenge, but we were very grateful to be able to have a 1-bedroom and not a studio, because I love the separation in the space and being able to close your door at night. But I will say, originally I thought this bed was gonna go in front of the window, but when we did that, we lost the ability to have the 2 nightstands and 2 table lamps, which is one of my cardinal rules. So we put it back this way. It is tight in front of the bed, but it's totally functional. And again, I went a little bit oversized in the rug in here because I think it lets it kind of play to be a little bit of a bigger scale than it appears. But I think having a nice big nightstand and these tall lamps make it feel a lot larger than it is. Again, the art is large, tall, and oversized, and it accentuates these high ceilings. And then when we were changing out the light fixtures in here, you kind of have to have fans for, you know, function during the warmer months. But with these fans, I wanted to choose something that felt like, you know, in theory, it could have been from the original apartment. So we chose wooden blades that, you know, really picked up off of the rest of the wood tones in the space. But this bedroom it's tight, but it feels very comfortable, and it really is just for sleeping. So I love that day to day, you know, you can have a separate space and you don't feel like, you know, if people are coming over that they're on top of your bedroom. So I love that this is separated, even though it is so small, but to me it feels very cozy and very homey. So when I was designing this apartment, and whenever you're thinking about designing a small space, I think people's instinct is for everything to go smaller. And I think that that's actually a completely wrong thing to do. So in this apartment, you will see that almost all of the furniture, the scale of it is, you know, the scale that you would find in a normal sized house versus a small New York apartment. So this sofa is like a 98 or 100-inch sofa. We have a nice big swivel chair, large coffee table, queen bed, 2 nightstands. And for all of the artwork and lamps, I tried to go really oversized to accentuate the high ceilings. But I think when you're designing a small space, I think people start to feel afraid that they're gonna get it in here and it's gonna be, I always tell people it's like the Christmas tree effect, like when you cut open a Christmas tree and it explodes and it's so much bigger than what you had expected. But I really find it's the opposite. I think that having fewer pieces at the appropriate scale is what is so important with small spaces. And also figuring out how you can best accentuate the like awkward nooks and crannies that you have. So you'll see in this apartment, we have like a massive arched floor lamp just leaning against the wall in kind of one of our dead corners. And that really opens up the space. It also bounces some light off, but it also provides a lot of function because in a small apartment, you know, where are you gonna see your outfit and have a full length mirror? Because we have this tiny little bathroom that I'm keeping hidden because it is not very aesthetically pleasing. So little things like that. I think you don't need to be afraid when it comes to designing small spaces. And I think that, you know, you also want it to be comfortable and not feel like doll furniture. So I tried to go, you know, larger on the rugs, larger on the furniture pieces, and like in our bedroom, I think it's one of my pet peeves actually with New York apartments. So many people have their bed, because just like our bedroom, it's a very small room, but so many people have their bed shoved up into one wall and they only have 1 nightstand. If you have a bed and you're an adult, you have to have 2 nightstands and 2 lamps. That is like a hill I will die on. So I put a tiny little like martini table, just big enough to hold a lamp and maybe your phone on one side because it is tight, but having the bed flanked with 2 nice tall table lamps and 2 nightstands, I think really grounds a space and makes it feel finished and complete. So I think when you're designing a small space, or when I'm thinking about a small space, it's really no different than thinking about just a room in a home, a 10,000 square foot home or a 500 square foot apartment. I think that you have to make sure that it's comfortable, and you know, trusting your gut and trusting your instincts with scale, I think, is one of the most important aspects of design. And I think that having the appropriately scaled furniture shows that, you know, you felt confident in the square footage and in the space. And to me, that's what makes this feel more like a home and less like, you know, a shoebox apartment. So with the kitchen, like many New York rentals, it is not ideal. And because we're just renting, we have not wanted to invest a lot of money into it. So rather than trying to make the kitchen feel better, it's functional. So what I've done is just use some linen panels here. I think this tone works really well between the brick and the wood tone. And this way we can just kind of close it off and it disappears into the background a little bit. It's actually a nice little size kitchen vignette, but the choices in there are not what I would have picked. So I like to keep it hidden, especially when guests are over, because I think it takes away from the overall aesthetic. But I always tell people there's a lot you can do with just a couple curtain panels. This has a tension rod. It's super easy, very renter friendly. And I think it kind of gives it a nice little grand entry, especially when you're walking in, and it doesn't distract your eye as it's moving through the room and the rest of the apartment. The word home to me, I would say, is a very emotional feeling. I have always been a person, I'm like an extroverted introvert, so I recharge at home. I, you know, get my social battery, my work battery, everything recharged in the peace of my home. I'm also one of those people that if the house does not look like a showroom where every pillow is fluffed and everything is perfect, I can't relax. Because to me, I love to feel proud of my home, even if no one is in there but just myself. And I always tell people, like, my favorite feeling in the world is right before you've had or right before you're having a dinner party or a cocktail party or something, when all the pillows are fluffed, the candles are lit, the music is on, and you just have this like 5-10 minutes where you can look around and admire all the hard work and all of the different pieces that you brought together to create this feeling. And for me, I am instinctual and I am very emotionally driven with, you know, how I select pieces for my own home. And so every piece that you'll see in this apartment or our home in North Carolina are things that when I was outsourcing, it just spoke to me immediately. It's so funny. I always tell people, like, for clients, we plan every single thing out. We look at swatch after swatch. We measure everything 5 times. But when it comes to my home, like, I did not measure a single piece of furniture in this apartment. I did not hold any swatches together because I just know that if I'm drawn to it and I love it, it's gonna work in this space. I also tend to gravitate usually towards very similar styles and color palettes when it comes to my own home. But that feeling, that warmth, that earthiness, that just overall cozy, safe feeling is what makes me able to do all the things that I do on a day-to-day basis. So having home feel like that and having home be something that's a retreat and that allows me to re-energize is one of the most important things to me.